What if I told you that the idea of parallel universes isn't just a modern scientific concept, but something ancient sages might have contemplated thousands of years ago? Imagine sitting under the vast night sky, tracing constellations with your eyes, when suddenly your mind expands to consider the possibility of countless other worlds, each with their own stories, their own realities, existing simultaneously with our own. This isn't just science fiction. It's a concept that appears in some of humanity's oldest spiritual texts, hidden within verses that have been passed down through generations. The notion that our universe might be one of many isn't new. It's ancient, mysterious, and deeply woven into the fabric of Hindu philosophy. Today, we're going to explore how these ancient texts might have been whispering secrets about the multiverse long before physicists began sketching equations on blackboards. We'll journey through time, from the cosmic visions described in sacred manuscripts to the cutting-edge theories of contemporary science, uncovering surprising parallels that challenge everything we think we know about both science and spirituality. This isn't just about connecting dots, it's about rediscovering a world so expansive that it redefines our place in the cosmos. You'll see how concepts like the Brahman and the countless Lokas described in these texts don't just reflect spiritual ideas. They echo the very theories that scientists are grappling with today. So if you've ever wondered whether there's more to reality than meets the eye, you're in the right place. This video is an invitation to look beyond the obvious, to question what we've been taught about the boundaries of knowledge, and to marvel at the possibility that ancient wisdom might have been pointing toward truths we're only now beginning to understand. Whether you're a science enthusiast, a history buff, or someone who simply loves a good mystery, there's something here for you. Let's embark on this journey together, into the multiverse and into the mind-bending idea that perhaps, just perhaps, the sages of old saw it all coming. But before we dive deeper into those ancient texts, let's first get a solid grasp on what modern science actually says about the multiverse. It's a concept that has moved from the fringe of theoretical physics into a more mainstream, though still hotly debated, hypothesis. The core idea is that our universe, with its specific set of physical laws and constants, might not be the only one. Instead, it could be just one bubble in a vast cosmic foam of universes, each with its own unique rules. This thinking emerges from several branches of cutting-edge physics. From quantum mechanics, for instance, comes the many worlds interpretation. It proposes that every time a quantum event occurs with multiple possible outcomes, the universe doesn't just choose one. Instead, it branches off into a new, parallel reality for each possibility. In one universe, the cat in that famous thought experiment is alive. In another, it's not. Every decision you've ever made, from what you had for breakfast to major life choices, has spawned alternate versions of reality where a different path was taken. Then we have cosmology and the theory of eternal inflation. This suggests that the rapid expansion of space-time, known as inflation, didn't just happen once at the birth of our universe. Instead, it's a perpetual process, a kind of bubbling ferment where new pocket universes are constantly budding off from an ever-expanding fabric of space. Each of these bubble universes could have wildly different properties. Perhaps some have stronger gravity, or light travels at a different speed, or the very forces that hold atoms together operate under completely new laws. Our universe is simply one bubble where the conditions happen to be just right for stars, planets, and life to form. String theory, one of the leading candidates for a theory of everything, adds another fascinating layer. It suggests that the fundamental building blocks of reality are not particles, but tiny, vibrating strings. The way these strings vibrate determines the properties of particles and forces. But the mathematics of string theory allows for a staggering number of possible vibrational patterns, perhaps 10 to the power of 500. That's a 1 followed by 500 zeros. Each configuration could describe a different, stable universe with its own unique physics. This vast landscape of possibilities is often called the string theory landscape, and it implies our cosmos is just one possibility in a nearly infinite array of viable universes. While we don't have direct observational evidence for these other universes, yet the mathematics behind our best theories keeps pointing us in this direction. It's a profound shift in perspective, suggesting that the peculiar, life-friendly fine-tuning of our universe might not be a miraculous coincidence, but simply a result of our address in a much larger and more varied multiverse. To grasp the sheer scale of this ancient vision, we need to step into the worldview of Hindu cosmology, a system of thought that is not merely ancient but staggeringly expansive. This isn't a single, monolithic story, but a vast tapestry woven across thousands of years in texts like the Vedas, the Upanishads, and the Puranas. Unlike many ancient creation myths that describe a single, linear beginning, these texts propose a universe without a final start or end, a cosmos that breathes. They speak of cycles within cycles, an endless rhythm of creation, preservation, and dissolution, known as Srishti, Esthiti, and Pralaya. One cycle of creation, from the birth of a universe to its complete dissolution, is called a kalpa, but even this is just a single day in the life of Brahma, the creator god. His entire lifespan encompasses 311 trillion, 40 billion human years. After this, the entire cosmic egg, the Brahmanda, dissolves only to be born again. This isn't just a long time, it's a concept of time that deliberately overwhelms our human scale, pushing us to think in terms of epochs, not centuries. Within this cyclical framework, existence is profoundly multidimensional. The texts describe not one universe, but a multitude of realms or planes of existence known as Lokas. These are often visualized as stacked layers or parallel dimensions, each operating with its own distinct laws and realities. There are 14 primary lokas in many descriptions, 7 upper worlds, the Vyarthis, and 7 lower worlds, the Patalas. Our Earth, Bhuloka, is merely one point in this immense vertical stack, but the cosmology doesn't stop there. The Vishnu Purana and other texts elaborate on the structure of a single Brahmanda, describing it as a series of concentric spheres like an immense cosmic onion. At the center is the realm of hells, surrounded by the earthly plane, which is in turn encircled by 7 orbital planes of the heavens, each one vaster and more sublime than the last. And then the texts make their most breathtaking leap. They propose that this entire, unimaginably vast Brahmanda, with its countless layers, cycles, and dimensions, is not alone. The Bhagavata Purana explicitly states that there are innumerable such universes, each emanating from the pores of the skin of Mahavishnu, the supreme expansion of the divine. Picture that for a moment, an infinite number of self-contained cosmic eggs, each with its own Brahma and its own timeline, all existing simultaneously. Some are just being born, others are in a state of vibrant life, and countless others are dissolving back into the unmanifest. This isn't a metaphorical suggestion, it's a direct and detailed cosmological model. The 5th canto of the Bhagavata Purana describes our universe as just one among many, comparing them to countless bubbles floating on the ocean of the supreme cause. This vision of a multiverse, or Enkantavada, the doctrine of manifold realities, is presented not as a speculative theory but as a fundamental aspect of how things are. It's a map of reality where the constants of physics we hold so dear in our universe could be entirely different in the one floating right next to us. Now let's rewind the clock even further to the very dawn of recorded thought, where we find some of the most profound and enigmatic hints of this idea. Nestled within the Rig Veda, the oldest of the Hindu scriptures, is a hymn so radical in its questioning that it seems to transcend its own time. This is the Nasadiya Sukta, often called the creation hymn, and it doesn't offer a simple, comforting story of how everything began. Instead, it presents a breathtakingly open-ended series of philosophical inquiries, a cosmic mystery that feels startlingly modern. The hymn begins not with a declaration, but with a profound admission of uncertainty. It opens by stating that in the beginning there was neither existence nor non-existence, neither the realm of space nor the sky beyond it. There was no death and no immortality. There was no distinguishing day or night. There was only that one, breathing by its own impulse, beyond which there was nothing at all. This initial description immediately shatters our conventional notions of a creator shaping a world out of pre-existing materials. It points toward a primordial state that is neither something nor nothing, a concept that physicists grappling with the origin of the universe from a quantum vacuum would find deeply resonant. Then comes the series of questions that form the heart of the hymn's mystery. It asks, who really knows? Who will here proclaim it? Whence was it produced? Whence is this creation? The gods came afterwards with the creation of this universe. Who then knows whence it has arisen? This is a staggering thought. The hymn suggests that even the gods are not the ultimate source. They are part of the creation, not its cause. It posits that the origin of everything is fundamentally unknowable, perhaps even unthinkable from our limited perspective within the cosmos. This is where the implication of multiple realities emerges from between the lines. By refusing to pin down a single narrative of creation, the hymn opens the door to the possibility of infinite narratives. If the origin is beyond knowing, could it be because there isn't one single origin story to tell? The poetic ambiguity allows for an interpretation where our cosmos is just one manifestation arising from that unknowable source, with the potential for countless others to have arisen alongside it or in cycles we cannot perceive. Scholars like Professor Jessica Frazier of the Oxford Centre for Hindu Studies interpret this not as a statement of ignorance, but as a sophisticated philosophical tool designed to expand the mind. It's a verbal map that points beyond the map itself, encouraging us to consider realities that operate under completely different logical frameworks from our own. The hymn concludes with another tantalizing line, suggesting that the one who watches over this creation in the highest heaven, perhaps he knows, or maybe he does not know. This final stroke of humility is its most powerful feature. It doesn't claim to have all the answers. Instead, it validates the search itself, acknowledging that the true nature of reality might be forever beyond the grasp of any single being or any single universe. The Nasadiya Sukta doesn't just describe a multiverse. It embodies the intellectual and spiritual mindset required to conceive of one. A mindset comfortable with mystery, comfortable with paradox, and open to the existence of realms and truths far beyond our current understanding. It's a hymn that doesn't end with a period, but with an ellipsis inviting endless contemplation. While that cosmic hymn from the Rig Veda opens the door to profound possibilities, later texts like the Puranas throw that door wide open, constructing an intricate architectural blueprint for a multidimensional multiverse. This is where the abstract concept of many worlds becomes a detailed, almost navigable cosmic map. The Puranic descriptions, particularly in the Vishnu Purana and the Bhagavata Purana, present us with a model of reality that is both hierarchical and parallel, a vast system of 14 primary worlds or realms known as the Lokas. Think of these Lokas not as planets floating in space, but as entirely different planes of existence, each operating with its own distinct vibrational frequency, its own laws of nature, and its own inhabitants. They are often visualized as stacked layers, coexisting in the same space but separated by dimension rather than distance. Our familiar earthly realm, Bhuloka, is just one level in this immense vertical structure. The system is divided into 7 upper worlds, the Vyarthis, and 7 lower worlds, the Patalas, with the earthly plane serving as the central dividing line. Journeying upward from our world, we first encounter Bhuloka, the astral plane just above the earthly realm, a space of subtle energy and atmosphere. Beyond that lies Svargaloka, the celestial heaven often compared to the paradise of other traditions, a realm of great pleasure and the abode of many deities. Higher still is Mahaloka, the world of great sages and enlightened beings who have transcended worldly desires. Then comes Janaloka, the abode of divine children born from the mind of Brahma, followed by Topoloka, a realm of immense austerity and meditation. Near the pinnacle sits Satyaloka, also known as Brahmaloka, the highest plane of truth and the abode of the creator god Brahma, a world of pure consciousness and bliss. Descending below the earth, the structure is just as complex. The 7 lower realms, the Patalas, are often misunderstood as simple hells. While some are indeed realms of learning through experience for those burdened by negative karma, others are simply different types of existence. Atala is a world of mesmerizing beauty and illusion ruled by Bala, a son of Shiva. Vaitala is a land of ghosts and spirits, while Sutala is a vast and prosperous realm. Talatala is the domain of the powerful demon architect Maya, known for his mystical knowledge. Mahatala is inhabited by serpent beings, the Nagas, and Rasatala is home to the Danavas, beings who often oppose the deities. The lowest of these is Patalaloka, a place of immense material wealth and sensual enjoyment, but also of deep unconsciousness and separation from higher truth. This entire breathtaking structure, all 14 lokas and everything within them, is contained within a single cosmic egg, a Brahmanda. And then the texts deliver their most staggering revelation. This Brahmanda is not unique. The Bhagavata Purana describes countless such universe bubbles, each with its own identical set of 14 lokas, all floating like atoms in the ocean of the Supreme Cause. Each universe has its own Brahma, its own timeline, and its own unique history, all existing simultaneously. This isn't a metaphor, it's an explicit cosmological model of a multiverse, suggesting that the physical constants and laws we experience in our Bhuloka could be entirely different in the Bhuloka of the universe floating right next to ours. The sheer scale of this vision reaches its most breathtaking expression in the Bhagavata Purana, a text that doesn't just hint at a multiverse but paints its portrait in meticulous, awe-inspiring detail. It describes the origin of these countless cosmic systems in a way that blends profound metaphysics with staggering imagery. The source of all these universes is presented as Mahavishnu, the supreme, all-pervading aspect of the divine, who rests upon the cosmic waters of causality. And from every single pore on the body of this boundless being, innumerable universes are said to emanate again and again with every exhalation. Each of these is a self-contained Brahmanda, a cosmic egg, complete with its own layered realities and its own cycle of time. Within each of these universe bubbles, the process of creation unfolds in an identical pattern, yet each one is entirely unique in its manifestation. A secondary creator, a Brahma, emerges from a lotus that grows from the navel of the Vishnu form within that particular universe. This Brahma is not the ultimate god, but a created being tasked with engineering the specific planetary systems, life forms, and physical laws within his own domain. This means that while the blueprint for creation might be consistent, the execution is infinitely variable. The Bhagavata Purana makes it explicitly clear that the set of natural laws, the types of beings that inhabit it, and even the flow of time can differ dramatically from one Brahmanda to the next. Our universe, with its specific speed of light, its 4 fundamental forces, and its evolutionary history, is just one possible configuration among an endless ocean of alternatives. The text uses powerful analogies to help the human mind grasp this ungraspable concept. One of the most evocative is the comparison of these innumerable universes to the atoms in a massive mountain. Just as one mountain contains countless particles, the body of the Supreme contains all universes. Another stunning analogy describes them as bubbles floating on the ocean of the Supreme Cause. Each bubble is a perfect, shimmering sphere, separate from the others yet made of the same fundamental substance, all drifting together on the same infinite sea. This imagery is not merely poetic, it's a precise cosmological model that suggests these universes are individual, membrane-like structures existing within a wider, transcendent reality. What makes this ancient description so remarkable is its resonance with modern multiverse hypotheses, particularly the concept of the inflationary multiverse. In that model, our universe is one bubble in a vast, ever-expanding foam of space-time, where each bubble has its own unique physics, forever separated from others by the incomprehensibly rapid expansion of the space between them. The Puranic vision of countless separate Brahmandas, each with its own rules, floating in a wider metaphysical space, is a breathtakingly parallel idea. It presents a reality that is not lonely or singular, but teeming with possibility, a grand, eternal experiment in existence where every potential reality is being played out somewhere, in some universe, at some point in the endless cycle of time. To truly appreciate the scale of this ancient multiverse, we need to step into its rhythm of time, a concept so vast it redefines eternity itself. Hindu cosmology presents time not as a straight line marching from a single beginning to a final end, but as a series of nested, cyclical rhythms like cosmic wheels within wheels. At the heart of this system are the yugas, the four great ages that continuously repeat in an endless loop, each with its own distinct spiritual atmosphere and duration. This cyclical view suggests that reality isn't a one-time event but a recurring drama, played out on a stage of almost incomprehensible scale, and this repetitive, overlapping nature offers a fascinating parallel to the modern idea of multiple, simultaneous timelines. The cycle begins with the Satya Yuga, a golden age of truth and enlightenment that lasts for 1,728,000 human years. This is an era of perfect harmony where humanity lives in tune with cosmic law, virtue reigns supreme, and the human lifespan is immense. This golden age gradually gives way to the Treta Yuga, a silver age lasting 1,296,000 years. During this period, righteousness declines by 1/4, ritual and sacrifice are introduced, and a subtle disconnect between humanity and the divine begins to emerge. Next comes the Dvapara Yuga, a Bronze Age spanning 864,000 years. Virtue is diminished by half, humanity becomes increasingly plagued by conflict and disease, and sacred knowledge begins to be fragmented and lost. We are currently living in the Kali Yuga, the Iron Age, which began just over 5,000 years ago and will last for 432,000 years. This is the age of greatest spiritual darkness, where virtue is reduced to a mere quarter, ignorance prevails, and human life is short and burdened by strife. The descending lengths of these ages, from over 1,000,000 years down to 432,000, mirror the gradual decline in spiritual awareness and the shortening of human attention span across the cycle. But here's where the concept becomes truly expansive and directly relevant to the multiverse. The cycle of these four yugas is called a Mahayuga, one great age, which totals 4,320,000 years. This Mahayuga itself is just a single building block in an even grander structure. 71 of these Mahayugas form a single Manvantara, the reign of one Manu, who is the progenitor and lawgiver for humanity in that period. 14 of these Manvantaras create a single Kalpa, which is one full day in the life of Brahma, the creator god, and a single Kalpa is equivalent to just over 4,320,000,000 human years. Yet this staggering time frame is merely one daytime. Brahma's night is of equal length, during which a partial dissolution occurs. His entire lifespan lasts for 100 of these celestial years, each made of 360 such days and nights, totaling 311,040,000,000,000 human years. After this, the entire universe dissolves back into its unmanifest state before the cycle begins anew with a new Brahma. This is not merely a long calendar. It is a conceptual framework for a reality built on repetition and simultaneity. The texts describe not just one linear timeline, but countless universes, each at a different point within its own cycle of yugas and kalpas. Imagine one universe in the golden light of a Satya Yuga, while its neighbor is locked in the struggles of a Dvapara Yuga, and another is experiencing the profound dissolution at the end of a kalpa. This mirrors the modern scientific notion of a multiverse where different regions or different bubble universes can be in vastly different states with different physical constants and evolutionary histories all existing at the same time. The repetitive clockwork nature of the Yuga cycle suggests that every possible permutation of reality, every peak of enlightenment and every valley of darkness is not a unique event but a recurring motif in an infinite cosmic symphony. The universe we inhabit, with its specific set of conditions and its place in the Kali Yuga, is just one verse in a song that has been sung and will be sung again an incalculable number of times across the multiverse. This ancient model of cyclical time provides a profound philosophical counterpart to the physicists' mathematical landscape of possible universes, both pointing toward a reality of endless variety and repetition. This philosophical framework of endlessly cycling universes naturally leads us to a deeper, more personal question about the nature of reality itself. If there are countless worlds, each with its own set of rules, how can we be sure that our own experience is even real? This is where we encounter one of the most profound and mind-bending concepts in all of Hindu philosophy, Maya. Far more than a simple magic trick, Maya is the very principle that shapes our experience of the cosmos, and its implications for the multiverse are absolutely staggering. In the school of thought known as Advaita Vedanta, Maya is the divine creative power that projects the entire multiplicity of the universe onto the singular, unchanging reality of Brahman, the ultimate ground of all being. Think of it like this. Imagine a single, pure, white beam of light. This light is Brahman absolute, undifferentiated consciousness. Now imagine placing a complex, multifaceted crystal into that beam. Suddenly, the single light is fractured into a brilliant, dancing display of countless colors and patterns projected onto the wall. The dazzling show is the universe we perceive. The colors are the galaxies, stars, planets, and people, but they are not fundamentally separate from the original light source. They are just a temporary, ever-changing expression of it. The crystal is Maya, the principle of illusion that creates the appearance of separation and diversity. The key insight is that the projection is real as an experience, but it is not the ultimate reality. We are mesmerized by the dancing colors, forgetting they are all made of the same singular light. This ancient idea finds a fascinating echo in some interpretations of modern physics. The quantum field theory suggests that what we perceive as solid particles are actually just excited states or vibrations in underlying, all-pervasive quantum fields. The chair you're sitting on, the screen you're watching, even your own body, all are essentially dense concentrations of energy vibrating in a vast, invisible field. In a way, this is a scientific description of Maya. The tangible world is a compelling illusion manifesting from a more fundamental, non-material reality. When we apply this concept of Maya to the multiverse, the implications become even more profound. It suggests that not only is our universe a kind of vibrational expression, but every single universe in the multiverse is also a unique projection of Maya. Each cosmic bubble, with its own distinct laws of physics, is just a different pattern cast by the cosmic crystal onto the screen of existence. One universe might project the illusion of strong nuclear force, while another projects the illusion of time flowing backward. Both are equally real as experiences within their own frame of reference, yet both are transient expressions of the same foundational truth. This beautifully addresses a central puzzle of the multiverse. If there are infinite universes, why do we perceive this one particular set of physical laws? Advaita Vedanta would suggest that our individual consciousness, or jiva, is conditioned by Maya to experience a specific, limited portion of the whole. It's as if we are wearing a unique pair of perceptual glasses that only allow us to see the wavelength of reality that corresponds to our universe. The other universes aren't out there in a spatial sense we can travel to. They are other potential expressions, other facets of the crystal that remain veiled from our current mode of perception. Our entire scientific endeavor, then, is the process of meticulously documenting the rules of the illusion we are currently experiencing without yet being able to take off the glasses. A thought experiment can help make this abstract idea more concrete. Imagine a vast, dark room. This is Brahman, the unmanifest. Now, imagine countless film projectors running simultaneously, each casting a completely different movie onto its own screen. Each movie has its own internal logic, its own characters, and its own plot. One is a sci-fi epic where gravity is weak, another is a fantasy where magic works, and a third is a drama almost identical to our world. Each screen is a universe, and the light from the projector is the creative power of Maya. The characters in each movie are utterly convinced of their own reality, unaware they are patterns of light. They cannot cross from one screen to another because they are bound by the rules of their own narrative. This is the multiverse as seen through the lens of Maya, not a collection of physical places, but a superposition of experienced realities, all emanating from the same source. The philosophy of Maya doesn't diminish the reality of our struggles, joys, and discoveries. Instead, it gives them a context that is infinitely vast and endlessly mysterious. But these abstract cosmological ideas find perhaps their most gripping expression not in philosophical treatises, but in the heart of India's greatest epic stories, where the concept of parallel realities bursts into the narrative with stunning dramatic force. The Mahabharata, in particular, offers a scene that stands as one of the most direct and awe-inspiring depictions of a multidimensional reality in all of ancient literature. This occurs on the battlefield of Kurukshetra in the sacred dialogue known as the Bhagavad Gita at the moment of Arjuna's greatest despair. As the warrior prince lays down his weapons, overwhelmed by the moral catastrophe of fighting his own family, his divine charioteer, Lord Krishna, offers him not just philosophical counsel, but a radical shift in perception, a vision of the true, multiform nature of reality itself. Krishna grants Arjuna a divine eye, a special faculty of perception that allows him to see beyond the narrow confines of his single timeline. What Arjuna witnesses is not a metaphor, but a visceral, overwhelming experience of the multiverse. He sees the entire cosmic form of the divine, the Vishvarupa, which contains not just our world, but all possible worlds all at once. He describes seeing infinite faces, innumerable eyes and mouths, and all the beings of the universe gathered within one boundless body. But the most telling detail is his description of seeing multiple realities unfolding simultaneously. He sees versions of the very battle he is about to fight already concluded, with the warriors on the field already slain by Krishna's immense fiery rays. He is witnessing a potential future, or perhaps a version of the event that is already happening in a parallel stream of time. He sees all of space and time compressed into a single, terrifying, and beautiful point of focus. This is not a dream or an allegory. It is a direct revelation of a layered existence, where what we perceive as a linear sequence is actually a single frame in an infinite tapestry of concurrent events. This narrative device brilliantly explores the emotional and existential weight of knowing that alternate versions of one's own life are being lived. Arjuna is shown that his dilemma, his moment of choice, is both monumentally important within his own story and just one iteration of a pattern playing out across countless realities. It's a concept that modern science fiction grapples with constantly, the psychological impact of the multiverse. The epic suggests that enlightenment, in this context, is the ability to hold this expanded view without being paralyzed by it, to make a choice with conviction even while understanding its relative nature within a grander scheme. Similarly, the Ramayana, the other great cornerstone of Indian epic literature, contains its own fascinating hints of narrative branching. Different regional versions of the story have circulated for centuries, presenting alternate outcomes for key events. In some versions of the story, for instance, Sita is not rescued by Rama but is instead replaced by a shadow version, a Chhaya Sita, while the real Sita enters the earth much earlier. Another variation involves the character of Lakshmana, who in certain tellings is the one who must break the bow to win Sita's hand, not Rama. These aren't seen as mere contradictions or errors in the oral tradition, but rather as respected variations that coexist, each containing its own validity and moral lesson. This aligns with the idea of a multiverse where every possible telling of a story is true somewhere. The narrative itself becomes a kind of quantum system, existing in a superposition of states until it is observed or told in a specific context. What makes these epic examples so powerful is that they embed a profound metaphysical idea within a deeply human story. We aren't just told about multiple universes, we experience the shock and awe of a character confronting them directly. We feel Arjuna's trembling, his fear, and his ultimate humility before a truth too vast for any single mind to hold. The epics use drama and emotion to make the multiverse relatable. They answer the "so what" question that often plagues abstract theories. The "so what" is that our choices matter intensely within our own frame of reference, even as they are part of a boundless ocean of other possibilities. These ancient storytellers understood that to comprehend the multiverse, we need more than equations. We need a story that makes us feel its terrifying and magnificent weight. This journey through cosmic scales and epic visions brings us to a truly fascinating frontier, the startling resonance between the fabric of reality, as described by quantum physics, and the nature of existence as articulated in Vedic thought. At first glance, the world of a subatomic particle and the insights of an ancient sage seem separated by millennia and methodology, yet they converge on a shared, profound truth, that at the most fundamental level, everything is deeply, mysteriously interconnected. Quantum physics reveals a universe where particles born together remain linked in a ghostly embrace, a phenomenon known as entanglement. Two electrons, for instance, can be created as a pair and then separated by any distance across a lab or across the galaxy. If you measure the spin of one and find it spinning upward, its partner instantly, without any signal traveling through space, will be found spinning downward. This instantaneous correlation defies our everyday understanding of locality and distance, suggesting that space itself might be a kind of illusion, a surface-level appearance overlaying a deeper, non-local reality where everything is one. Now, let's hold that thought and turn to the core philosophical principle of Advaita Vedanta, the concept of Brahman. Brahman is the ultimate, unchanging reality, the singular, infinite consciousness that is the source and substance of all that exists. The myriad forms of the universe, the stars, planets, living beings, and ourselves, are not separate from Brahman. They are, in the famous teaching, like waves upon the ocean. Each wave appears to have its own individual identity, its own crest and trough, its own beginning and end. But in truth, every wave is nothing but the ocean itself, temporarily taking a form. The water of the wave is the water of the ocean. In the same way, the Upanishads declare, Tat Tivam Asi, thou art that. Your innermost consciousness is not a separate entity isolated in your skull. It is a localized expression of the very same cosmic consciousness that permeates everything. This is not a poetic metaphor but a statement about the fundamental non-duality of existence. The apparent separation between you and the world, between the observer and the observed, is the primary illusion or maya that spiritual practice seeks to see through. The parallel between this and quantum entanglement is not a perfect one-to-one mapping. Ancient sages were not running particle accelerators, but the conceptual harmony is too compelling to ignore. Both frameworks point toward a universe that is fundamentally whole and undivided. Quantum mechanics suggests that particles we see as separate are, in fact, parts of a single underlying quantum system. The Vedantic view suggests that individual souls or jivas are all manifestations of the one Brahman. In both cases, the intuition is that individuality is a kind of convenient fiction. The deeper truth is a unified field of existence. This leads to another profound intersection, the role of the observer. In the famous double-slit experiment of quantum mechanics, a particle like an electron behaves as a wave, creating an interference pattern, until a scientist sets up a detector to observe which path it takes. The moment it is observed, the electron behaves like a single particle and the wave pattern collapses. The act of measurement, of observation, seems to play an active role in determining the reality that manifests. This has sparked decades of debate about the nature of consciousness and its relationship to the physical world. The Vedic and yogic traditions have explored this relationship for thousands of years. A central practice in these traditions is pratyahara, the withdrawal of the senses, and dharana, concentrated focus. The goal is to quiet the chaotic chatter of the individual mind to perceive the underlying unified field of consciousness. The rishis described accessing states of awareness where the distinction between the seer and the seen dissolves entirely. In this state, one doesn't observe reality from the outside, one is the reality being observed. This ancient investigative method, looking inward with immense discipline, may have led them to an intuitive understanding that consciousness is not a passive byproduct of the brain but an active participant in the cosmos. They might have intuited that the manifest world requires a perceiver to crystallize from a realm of pure potentiality, a concept that eerily mirrors the observer effect in quantum theory. So how might these seers have conceptualized something like a multiverse? If consciousness and reality are so deeply intertwined, and if the fundamental state of things is a unified field of infinite potential, then it follows that every possible outcome must exist somewhere in the vast tapestry of existence. The quantum many-worlds interpretation proposes that every quantum decision point spawns new branches of reality. The ancient concept of the Leela, or the divine play of consciousness, carries a similar resonance. The universe is seen not as a rigid, predetermined machine, but as the spontaneous, creative expression of Brahman. Why would this expression limit itself to a single storyline? The sheer abundance and variety of life on our own planet suggest a creative impulse that thrives on diversity. It is a natural extension of this principle to imagine that the divine play unfolds across an infinite stage of parallel universes, each a unique expression of the one source, exploring every conceivable possibility of existence. The rishis, through their deep meditation, may have tuned into this fundamental creative vibration, perceiving not just one reality, but the hum of infinite potentialities all arising from the same singular, entangled source. They didn't need particle physics animations. Their laboratory was their own consciousness, and their discovery was that the entire cosmos is, in the end, a single, interconnected whole. To dive even deeper into this profound intersection of mind and cosmos, we must turn to the Upanishads, the philosophical bedrock of Hindu thought. These ancient texts, often called Vedanta, meaning the end of the Vedas, are not about rituals or myths, but about direct, experiential inquiry into the nature of the self and the universe. They propose a radical idea that turns our everyday understanding inside out. Consciousness is not a product of the brain, but the very foundation upon which all reality is built. The Mandukya Upanishad, in particular, offers a breathtakingly precise map of consciousness through the analysis of 4 distinct states, a framework that provides a stunningly personal and experiential lens through which to view the multiverse. The Upanishads begin with the waking state, known as Vaisvanara. This is our common, shared experience of reality, the world of objects, senses, and logic. Here, consciousness is turned outward, engaged with the material realm. We navigate a universe with fixed laws of physics where cause and effect seem absolute. But the text hints that this state, while feeling so solid and real, is just one level of perception, one frequency on the vast dial of existence. It is the reality we all agree upon, but the Upanishads suggest this consensus might be a kind of collective focusing on a single channel, ignoring the static and other stations broadcasting simultaneously. Then we shift to the dream state, or Tejasa. In this realm, consciousness turns inward. The dreamer creates an entire reality, a world with its own landscapes, characters, and narratives, all governed by a completely different set of rules. Gravity can be optional, time can loop or leap, and the dreamer can be in two places at once. This state operates with a logic that feels real in the moment but dissolves upon waking. From a multiverse perspective, this is fascinating. The dreaming state demonstrates that our own consciousness is capable of generating a fully realized, immersive reality with a different physics from the waking world. It serves as a direct, personal experience of what it might be like to inhabit a parallel universe. The Upanishads aren't dismissing this as mere fantasy. They are presenting it as a legitimate state of awareness with its own reality and value, a testament to the creative power of consciousness itself. The third state is deep, dreamless sleep, prajna. This is a state of profound unity and peace without subject or object, without duality. There is no experience of a separate self or a separate world. It is not a state of unconsciousness, but rather a state of pure, undifferentiated consciousness. The Chandogya Upanishad describes it with the famous phrase, Tat Tivam Asi, thou art that, meaning the individual soul is identical to the ultimate reality, Brahman. In this state, the multitude of possible universes collapses back into a single, unified field of potential. It is the ocean itself without any waves. This corresponds remarkably to the quantum vacuum or the unified field theories in physics, a state of maximum potentiality from which all manifest universes, with their specific laws, bubble forth. It is the silent, unmanifest source of the entire multiverse. Finally, the Upanishads point to a fourth state, Turiya, which transcends the other three. This is not a state to be experienced, but the ever-present background awareness that is the witness of all other states, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. Turiya is pure consciousness itself, unchanging and eternal. It is the screen upon which the three movies of waking, dreaming, and sleeping are projected. This is the ultimate ground of being, the Brahman, from which all possible realities emerge and into which they dissolve. Recognizing oneself as Turiya is the goal of self-realization, to understand that you are not the character in the movie, you are not the dreamer, you are not even the sleeper, you are the immutable awareness that allows for all experiences to happen. When we apply this framework to the multiverse, the implications are staggering. Each state of consciousness could be seen as a gateway to a different level or branch of reality. Our waking state is our local universe. The dream state is a personal, conscious, created parallel reality. The deep sleep state is our connection to the unmanifest source of all universes. And Turiya is the singular consciousness that pervades and witnesses the entire multiverse. This suggests that the mechanism for perceiving or even traveling between universes might not be a physical spacecraft, but a shift in the very frequency of our own awareness. The sages of the Upanishads, through intense meditation, claim to have mastered this ability to consciously move through these states, thereby gaining access to knowledge and realms beyond our conventional sensory perception. They weren't just philosophizing, they were reporting from the frontiers of consciousness, describing a multiverse that is not just out there in space, but in here, in the very nature of mind itself. This fascinating intersection of ancient insight and modern theory wasn't born in a vacuum. In fact, some of the most brilliant minds behind the quantum revolution were directly inspired by the very philosophical traditions we've been exploring. They recognized in these ancient texts a conceptual kinship, a way of thinking about reality that was strangely congruent with the bizarre, non-intuitive world their equations were revealing. The Austrian physicist Erwin Schrödinger, a founding father of quantum mechanics, is a prime example. He was an avid reader of the Upanishads and kept copies on his nightstand. He was deeply influenced by the central Vedantic idea that all consciousness is one. In his book, What is Life?, Schrödinger made his admiration clear, writing, "Vedanta teaches that consciousness is singular, all happenings are played out in one universal consciousness, and there is no multiplicity of selves." He saw the Upanishadic concept of Brahman as the only viable solution to the paradox of how multiple observers could ever agree on a single reality if consciousness were truly separate. For him, the interconnectedness implied by quantum theory needed a philosophical foundation, and he found it in the ancient wisdom of India. This cross-pollination of ideas wasn't limited to Schrödinger. Niels Bohr, another giant of quantum physics, visited India in the 1920s and was deeply struck by the teachings he encountered. Upon receiving the Danish Order of the Elephant, he designed his own coat of arms, which featured the Taoist yin-yang symbol, but his choice was also heavily informed by his exposure to the principle of complementarity found in Eastern thought. He saw a direct parallel between the way Hindu philosophy embraced seemingly opposite truths, such as the concept of the universe being both one and many, and the behavior of quantum objects like electrons, which could manifest as both particles and waves depending on how they were observed. He understood that the observer and the observed were not independent, an idea that resonates powerfully with the yogic practices of turning consciousness inward to affect reality. Bohr's famous remark that anyone who is not shocked by quantum theory has not understood it hints at a worldview that transcends classical logic, one that these ancient systems had been exploring for millennia. Perhaps the most famous bridge between these two worlds was built by physicist Fritjof Capra in his groundbreaking 1975 book, The Tao of Physics. Capra systematically drew parallels between the concepts of modern physics and the core tenets of Eastern mysticism, including Hinduism, Buddhism, and Taoism. He described how the quantum field, an invisible, dynamic, and interconnected void from which particles continuously appear and disappear, echoed the Hindu concept of the Brahman, the ultimate ground of all being. He compared the ceaseless cosmic dance of subatomic particles, as revealed in particle accelerator experiments, to the cosmic dance of the Hindu deity Shiva, who rhythmically creates and destroys the universe in a never-ending cycle. For Capra, this wasn't a vague metaphor. It was a striking convergence of two distinct paths to truth: the inward journey of the mystic and the outward exploration of the scientist, arriving at the same fundamental view of a dynamic, interconnected, and relativistic universe. His work brought these ideas into the mainstream, showing a generation that science and spirituality could inform and validate each other. What makes this historical exchange so significant is that it moves beyond mere coincidence. It demonstrates a process of validation. These weren't physicists simply appropriating exotic metaphors. They were serious thinkers who found in Hindu philosophy a pre-existing language and conceptual framework that helped them make sense of the bewildering reality their own research had uncovered. The Upanishadic view of a non-dual reality provided a philosophical landing pad for the quantum weirdness of entanglement and non-locality. The ancient concept of Maya, the world as a relative illusion, offered a way to comprehend why the act of observation could collapse a probability wave into a definite event. These scientists saw that the sages, through centuries of deep contemplation, had intuitively mapped a territory that Western science was only just beginning to enter with its instruments and equations. This cross-cultural dialogue doesn't diminish the rigor of science. It enriches it, suggesting that the pursuit of ultimate reality is a human endeavor that can be approached from multiple directions. It validates the timelessness of these multiverse concepts, showing that they are not outdated superstitions but profound insights that continue to resonate with our most advanced understanding of the cosmos. Yet even the grand cycle of the yugas, spanning billions of years, is merely part of a far greater cosmic rhythm, the inevitable period of dissolution known as pralaya. Just as our lives are punctuated by the daily reset of sleep and our planet by the cycle of seasons, Hindu cosmology presents the universe itself as undergoing a periodic reset, a return to its source before the next great expression. This isn't a final, apocalyptic end, but a necessary phase of rest and rejuvenation for the cosmos, a concept that finds a haunting echo in several modern scientific theories about the ultimate fate of all things. At the end of each kalpa, a day of Brahma, a partial dissolution occurs known as Naimatika Pralaya. This is like a universal nightfall. The three lower worlds, Earth, the astral plane, and the heavens, are consumed by fire emanating from the mouth of Sankarsana, a form of the divine. All manifested forms, from the mightiest mountains to the most complex life forms, dissolve back into their elemental, unmanifest state. The sages and beings who have attained the higher Lokas remain, waiting through this cosmic night for the dawn of the next kalpa, when creation will unfold once more from the mind of a reawakened Brahma. This cyclical process of creation and dissolution happens again and again for the entire lifespan of Brahma, but even this magnificent being is not eternal. After 100 celestial years of Brahma, the most profound dissolution occurs, Mahapralaya, the great night of Brahma. During this event, the entire cosmic egg, the Brahmanda with all 14 of its layered lokas, is completely reabsorbed. The 7 upper worlds and the 7 lower worlds all dissolve without a trace back into the body of Mahavishnu, into the unmanifest potential from which they first arose. All of the countless individual souls or jivas, along with the creator Brahma himself, go into a state of suspended animation, resting within the divine until the impulse for a new cycle of creation emerges. The entire universe, with all its history, its triumphs and tragedies, its galaxies and gods, is folded back into the source, like a wave settling back into the calm of the ocean. The visuals this concept inspires are nothing short of cinematic. Picture the entirety of space-time not expanding but contracting. Galaxies, drawn by an irresistible force, rush toward each other in a reverse of the Big Bang. Stars are pulled from their orbits, cosmic structures collapse in upon themselves, and the very fabric of reality begins to unravel. The temperature of the universe skyrockets in a final, fiery embrace, a heat death in reverse, a cosmic conflagration that doesn't destroy but rather transmutes everything back into pure, undifferentiated energy. It is both a terrifying and a peaceful image, the ultimate letting go of all form, a return to a state of perfect unity and silence after an eon of magnificent, tumultuous diversity. This ancient vision of cyclical collapse finds a compelling parallel in several scientific hypotheses for the end of our universe. The first is the Big Crunch model, a once popular theory that proposed the ultimate fate of the cosmos depended on its density. If the density of matter were high enough, the gravitational attraction between all galaxies would eventually overcome the force of the universe's expansion. The cosmos would stop expanding, pause, and then begin to hurtle backward, collapsing in on itself in a mirror image of the Big Bang. All matter and energy would be compressed back into an infinitely hot, dense singularity, a state eerily similar to the description of everything dissolving back into an unmanifest source. While current observations of an accelerating expansion due to dark energy have made the Big Crunch less likely for our specific universe, the model remains a valid theoretical possibility for other universes within a multiverse, each with their own unique physical constants. An even more dramatic scientific counterpart is the concept of vacuum decay. This theory arises from the study of quantum fields and suggests our universe might not be in its most stable possible state. Imagine reality is like a valley in a vast cosmic landscape, but our valley isn't the lowest point. There is a deeper, more stable valley somewhere else. Through a random quantum fluctuation, a tiny bubble of this true vacuum could spontaneously form somewhere in space. This bubble would then expand outward at the speed of light, its wall rewriting the very laws of physics as it passes. The fundamental constants we rely on, the strength of gravity, the mass of an electron, would change instantly. Atoms would cease to hold together, molecules would disintegrate, and the universe as we know it would be erased, replaced by a new reality with completely different rules. This isn't a physical collapse but a laws of physics collapse, a sudden and total metaphysical reset that aligns stunningly with the idea of pralaya as a dissolution of the manifested illusion, a return to a more fundamental state before a new set of laws, a new Maya, is projected. The profound beauty of the concept of pralaya is its essential purpose within the cosmic cycle. Dissolution is not a punishment or a failure, it is a necessary period of conservation and rest. It is the cosmic exhale that must follow the inhalation of creation. All the energy, the consciousness, and the experiences of a universe are not lost but are rather recycled, conserved within the divine, to be expressed again in a new form when the next cycle begins. This provides a philosophical answer to the potential despair of impermanence. It suggests that endings are always followed by beginnings, that death is always in service of new life, and that even on the grandest scale, existence is a perpetual dance of dynamic balance. This layered cosmos, filled with its cycles of creation and dissolution, is far from empty. It is a teeming, vibrant multiverse, inhabited by an astonishing array of beings whose very nature is defined by the dimension, or loka, they call home. Hindu cosmology presents us with a breathtakingly diverse spectrum of life, from the subtle, radiant beings of the higher worlds to the powerful, often conflicted entities of the lower realms. This isn't merely a spiritual hierarchy, it's a fascinating speculative biology, a detailed account of how consciousness might manifest under entirely different sets of physical and metaphysical laws. In the upper lokas, we find the devas, often translated as the shining ones or deities. These are not omnipotent gods in the Western monotheistic sense, but rather highly advanced beings existing in a more refined dimension of reality. Think of them as cosmic administrators or highly evolved consciousnesses operating from a higher vibrational frequency. Their home, Svargaloka, is described as a realm of immense beauty, pleasure, and light, where the very substance of reality is more malleable to thought and intention. A being composed of such subtle energy would perceive time, space, and matter very differently from us. Their interactions with humans, as described in the epics, are often marked by a sense of scale and perspective that feels alien. A conversation with a diva might involve them revealing the interconnectedness of all events across centuries, or offering a boon that plays out over generations, because their perception isn't limited to a single human lifespan. Their technology, for lack of a better word, appears to us as magic or divine power, the ability to travel instantly across space, to assume any form, or to manifest objects from thought. This aligns with the multiverse concept where different universes could have vastly different fundamental constants. In a dimension where consciousness is a more direct force, the line between thought and reality would be incredibly thin. Conversely, the lower lokas, the patalas, are inhabited by the asuras and other powerful beings like the nagas and danavas. The term asura is often simplified to mean demon, but this misses a crucial nuance. They are frequently portrayed as immensely powerful, knowledgeable, and even pious, but their consciousness is dominated by a different driving force, often ambition, jealousy, or a desire to possess and control rather than to harmonize and enlighten. They represent a different evolutionary path, one of immense power without the corresponding spiritual expansion. Their realms are often described as opulent, technologically astounding, and filled with sensual delights, yet shrouded in a different quality of light. Their interactions with the human world are often direct and impactful, seeking to influence, conquer, or bargain, reflecting a consciousness that is still deeply engaged with the material plane, albeit on a grander scale. The mythological art depicting these beings is not merely symbolic, it's a form of speculative anatomical illustration. The multiple arms of a deva like Vishnu represent their multifaceted ability to act simultaneously on many levels of reality. The serpentine form of a Naga king symbolizes a consciousness that operates on a coiled, nonlinear perception of time. These are artistic attempts to visualize a biology that is utterly non-human, existing in dimensions with more degrees of freedom than our own. This entire ecosystem of multidimensional life is held together by a constant flow of interaction and exchange. The texts are filled with stories of humans undertaking incredible journeys or performing great austerities to reach these other realms, and of devas and asuras descending to the earthly plane, sometimes to aid, sometimes to test, and sometimes to interfere. These narratives can be interpreted as more than just myths. They are accounts of interdimensional contact where the veil between parallel realities grows thin. The ancient sages, through deep meditation, were said to have developed the inner sensory apparatus to perceive these frequencies of existence, to communicate with these beings, and to understand that our human experience is just one small slice of a much larger, living, breathing, multidimensional multiverse. It presents a cosmos that is not a cold, empty vacuum, but a deeply inhabited system, a thriving network of countless forms of life, each perfectly adapted to the unique physical and spiritual laws of their home dimension. This intricate web of multidimensional life and cosmic cycles naturally leads us to a profound and deeply personal question. If countless versions of ourselves are living out infinite possibilities across this vast multiverse, what is the thread that connects them? What governs our journey through these myriad realities? According to the ancient worldview, the answer lies in a universal law as fundamental as gravity, the law of karma. Far more than simple cause and effect or a system of cosmic punishment and reward, karma is presented as a sophisticated, impersonal mechanism of action and consequence that might very well be the operating system for navigating the multiverse itself. At its core, karma is the principle that every action, every thought, word, and deed generates a corresponding reaction that shapes our future experience. It's not a judge keeping a ledger, it's more like a natural law of moral physics. Just as a seed planted in the earth will eventually grow into a specific type of plant, an action planted in the field of consciousness will eventually bear fruit of a corresponding quality. This creates a causal chain, a flow of energy that extends across time, and in the context of a multiverse, potentially across dimensions. Your intentions and actions in this moment are not just determining your tomorrow. They could be influencing which version of reality you align with next, which branch of the probability tree you find yourself experiencing. This suggests that the multiverse isn't a random, chaotic explosion of possibilities, but a highly structured, morally coherent system where consciousness evolves through experience, guided by the choices it makes. To visualize how this might work, imagine a vast cosmic flowchart. At the top is pure consciousness, or the soul, teeming with potential. Every single choice point in your life represents a branching path. Do you choose compassion or indifference, courage or fear, honesty or deception? Each decision doesn't just create a different outcome in a single timeline. It aligns your consciousness with a specific vibrational frequency that resonates with a particular strand of reality within the multiverse. A life lived with generosity and integrity vibrates at a frequency that naturally attracts experiences of abundance and connection, effectively tuning your consciousness to a reality where those things are more prevalent. Conversely, actions rooted in fear and hostility tune you into realities where conflict and scarcity are the dominant themes. You are not being punished, you are simply experiencing the reality that matches your inner state. The flowchart isn't linear, it's a sprawling, multidimensional network where your karmic momentum, the sum total of your intentions and actions, acts as a navigational tool, guiding your conscious awareness through the infinite possibilities. Consider a real-life analogy to make this abstract idea tangible. Imagine two students preparing for a crucial exam. One, named Alex, approaches the task with diligence and focus, studying consistently and managing stress with healthy habits. The other, Sam, procrastinates, choosing short-term distractions over long-term goals, and lets anxiety take over. On the day of the exam, they both sit in the same room, but they are about to experience two entirely different realities. Alex, feeling prepared and calm, enters a state of flow. The questions make sense, time seems to slow down, and the outcome is a high grade that opens doors to new opportunities. Sam, overwhelmed and unprepared, enters a reality of panic. The same questions appear confusing, time rushes by, and the result is a failure that leads to a different set of consequences. The external circumstances were identical, the same classroom, the same test, but their internal states, shaped by their previous actions, their karma, catapulted them into two divergent experiential realities. Now scale this principle up to encompass an entire lifetime, and then across countless lifetimes and universes. The choices we make are the rudder that steers our ship of consciousness through the ocean of multiversal possibilities. This framework provides a powerful answer to one of the most haunting questions raised by the multiverse theory. If there's a version of me out there who made all the right choices and is living a perfect life, why am I stuck in this one? The philosophy of karma suggests that you are not separate from that other you. You are the same consciousness, currently focused on this particular experiential timeline as a direct result of your accumulated momentum. You are learning the lessons this specific reality has to offer. The ultimate goal within this system is to gradually refine your consciousness through countless experiences across countless lives and worlds, burning away the karma that binds you to cycles of suffering until you can consciously choose your reality from a place of wisdom and freedom, ultimately realizing your unity with the source of it all. In this light, the Hindu multiverse is not a cold, mechanistic sprawl of random universes, but a grand moral cosmos, a divine school for souls, with karma as both the curriculum and the compassionate law that ensures every lesson eventually leads toward growth and awakening. Now, to truly grasp the scale of this vision, we need to understand its fundamental unit of creation, the Brahmanda, or the cosmic egg. This is one of the most potent and enduring metaphors in all of cosmology, ancient or modern. Picture a single, self-contained universe, not as an endless expanse of empty space, but as a brilliantly structured, egg-shaped organism floating in a transcendental reality. Within its shell lies an entire cosmos, complete with its own laws of physics, its own layers of heavens and worlds, its own cycle of time, and its own creator deity, Brahma. This isn't a tiny object. The texts describe a single Brahmanda as being 500 million yoganas in size, a number so vast it's meant to convey an expanse beyond all human measurement, a universe in its own right. But the true awe doesn't come from contemplating one cosmic egg. It comes from the staggering, almost incomprehensible numbers the texts provide for how many of these eggs exist. The Vishnu Purana doesn't shy away from this, offering a calculation that pushes the mind to its limits. It states that the collection of universes is as numerous as the particles of dust found on the entire Earth. Just try to visualize that for a moment. Every single grain of sand on every beach, every speck of dirt in every field, every mote of dust floating in a sunbeam, each one represents an entire universe with its own swirling galaxies, its own history, and its own possibilities for life. The Bhagavata Purana amplifies this even further, describing how these innumerable Brahmandas stream forth from the pores of Mahavishnu's body, like atomic particles emanating from a singular, infinite source. This isn't a vague suggestion of a few alternate worlds. It is a definitive declaration of an infinite multiverse, a reality so teeming with existence that our own cosmos becomes statistically insignificant. This ancient imagery finds a breathtakingly precise parallel in one of the leading modern multiverse theories, the bubble universe model within the framework of eternal inflation. Cosmologists today suggest that our Big Bang was not a unique event. Instead, they propose that the rapid expansion of space-time, known as inflation, is a perpetual process happening in a much larger meta-universal background. In this eternal inflation, new universes are constantly budding off, like bubbles spontaneously forming in a vast, boiling cauldron. Each of these bubble universes is a self-contained region with its own local laws of physics, determined by how the fundamental forces and particles settled in that particular region as it cooled. Critically, these bubbles are not connected by ordinary space. They are separated by the endlessly inflating backdrop, meaning they are forever beyond our observational reach. The Brahmanda, with its distinct shell separating it from the transcendent space of the divine, is a stunningly accurate conceptual forerunner to this cosmological model. The ancient seers envisioned individual universe bubbles, and the modern physicists, with their mathematical tools, have arrived at a remarkably similar picture. The egg shape itself is profoundly significant. An egg is the perfect symbol of self-contained potential. It holds within it all the instructions and nutrients needed to create an entirely new, complex life form. In the same way, a Brahmanda contains the complete blueprint for a reality. The hard outer shell represents the boundary, the membrane that separates one set of physical constants from another. Inside, the yolk and the white could be seen as metaphors for the different layers of reality, the gross material worlds and the more subtle energetic realms, all nourishing and sustaining each other within a single, cohesive unit. This model elegantly solves a problem that both ancient philosophers and modern scientists grapple with. How can multiple, complete universes with different rules coexist? The answer from the Puranas is that they are not coexisting in a shared spatial arena where they could collide. They are individuated entities like eggs in an infinite carton, each occupying their own unique. Well, reality, the metaphor is so robust, so visually and conceptually clear, that it bridges a gap of thousands of years, showing how a profound intuition about the nature of existence can be expressed in mythic language long before the mathematics is invented to formalize it. But this grand vision of countless cosmic eggs begs a practical question. How did an ancient civilization without telescopes or particle accelerators even begin to conceptualize such staggering scales? The answer lies not just in philosophy, but in a sophisticated tradition of mathematics that was deeply intertwined with spirituality, a system that developed a working vocabulary for the infinite. The ancient Indian mathematical mind didn't just count. It contemplated magnitudes that dwarfed the merely astronomical, and it did so with a clarity that feels shockingly modern. At the heart of this tradition is the concept of Ananta, a Sanskrit word that means endless, boundless, or infinite. But Ananta isn't just a philosophical abstraction. It is treated as a real, tangible quantity in mathematical text. It's the number that is larger than any other number you can name, and then larger still. This wasn't a theoretical fancy. It was a necessary tool for describing a cosmos that was, by its very nature, without beginning or end. We see this mathematical bravery on full display in texts like the Lalita Sahasranama, a sacred hymn that is a cornerstone of Hindu worship. This is a prayer that consists of 1,000 names for the Divine Mother, and nestled within these names are numbers of such immense size that they seem to break the very concept of counting. One of the names is a Sankhya, which translates to innumerable or beyond counting. But in the rigorous world of Indian mathematics, this term had a very specific mind-boggling value. The Lalitavastara Sutra, an ancient text, lays out a detailed system of number nomenclature that goes far beyond millions and billions. It starts with Laksha, which is 100,000. Then comes Koti, 10 million, then Ayuta, 100 million. The list ascends through ever larger denominations, Niyuta, Kankara, Vivara, and on and on. Each new term representing a number that is 100 times larger than the one before it. The scale explodes upward through Talakshana, Mahakagana, and finally reaches a Sankhya, which is calculated to be 10 to the power of 140. That's a 1 followed by 140 zeros. To put that in perspective, the number of atoms in the entire observable universe is estimated to be around 10 to the power of 80, a number dwarfed by the Asankhya. And the Lalita Sahasranama uses this term not as a mathematical exercise, but as a descriptor for the divine, a being of infinite, innumerable qualities. This is a deliberate use of mathematics to inspire awe and to point the mind toward a reality that is literally beyond calculation. The purpose of these vast numbers wasn't to facilitate trade or build pyramids, it was cosmological. They were the units required to measure the immeasurable, the lifespan of a universe, the number of cycles within a cycle, or the distance between the layers of reality. The Rig Veda itself states, "The gods are fond of the obscure and dislike the evident." This love for the obscure, for pushing past the limits of the known, is what fueled this mathematical exploration. When a text says that during the Great Dissolution, Mahapralaya, it takes an Asankhya number of years for the universe to be reabsorbed, it is using mathematics to convey a theological and cosmological truth. That the processes of the cosmos operate on a time scale so vast that it is, from a human perspective, functionally infinite. These numbers are the quantitative expression of the philosophical concept of Ananta. This ancient fascination with the immense finds a direct parallel in the work of modern cosmologists. Today, when physicists like Alan Guth or Andrei Linde develop the theory of eternal inflation, they are also dealing with numbers of inconceivable size. The potential number of bubble universes in the inflationary multiverse isn't just a large number, it's a number that is effectively infinite for all practical purposes. The mathematical framework for this exponential expansion, the geometry of higher dimensions, the landscape of string theory, is the modern equivalent of the Vedic numeral system. Both are attempts to use the language of mathematics to map a reality that is far too large to ever be seen directly. The ancient rishis used ascending denominations like Koti and Asankhya. Modern physicists use exponents and googolplexes. The tool has evolved, but the impulse is identical: to quantify the cosmos in all its limitless grandeur. This historical continuity suggests that the human drive to measure the immeasurable is a fundamental part of our quest to understand our place in the universe, whether we are using sacred hymns or supercomputers. The journey through these cosmic scales and mathematical infinities might seem like a flight of pure imagination, but what if the ancient seers weren't just speculating? What if they were reporting from the frontiers of inner space, having actually traveled there? This brings us to the most practical and personal dimension of the Hindu multiverse, the claim that these realms are not merely theoretical but are accessible through specific, disciplined technologies of consciousness. For thousands of years, yogic and tantric traditions have preserved detailed maps and methods for what we might call interdimensional travel, not in a physical spacecraft, but through the vehicle of one's own focused awareness. This is the science of meditation, and it presents a radical proposition that the multiverse is as much an internal landscape as an external one, and the two might be the same thing. The foundational text for this inner exploration is the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, a 2,000-year-old manual that is less about physical postures and more about the systematic mastery of consciousness itself. Patanjali outlines an 8-limbed path, a step-by-step guide to calming the fluctuations of the mind. The early stages, ethical disciplines, physical poses, breath control, are all preparatory, designed to stabilize the body and quiet the mental noise that normally dominates our perception. This is like tuning a radio. You have to eliminate the static before you can clearly receive a specific station. The goal is to reach a state of profound meditation, or samadhi, where the meditator's awareness becomes so concentrated that it can pierce through the veil of ordinary reality and perceive the subtle structures underlying the cosmos. This is where the concept of the Lokas becomes an experiential reality rather than a theological idea. Advanced practitioners describe using specific meditation techniques, often involving intricate visualizations and the repetition of sacred sounds known as bija mantras, to consciously shift their awareness into these different vibrational planes. Each loka is said to resonate with a specific frequency. By internalizing that frequency through mantra and focused intention, the yogi's consciousness is believed to attune itself to that dimension, allowing for perception and even interaction with it. It's not about the physical body traveling to a place in space. It's about the center of one's awareness relocating to a different band in the spectrum of existence, much like turning the dial on a radio to move from an AM news station to an FM music channel. The radio itself hasn't moved, but the content of its experience has completely changed. The testimonies from practitioners who claim to have experienced this are remarkably consistent across different lineages. They don't speak of vague feelings or metaphors. They report vivid, structured experiences of landscapes and beings that align precisely with the ancient descriptions of the Lokas. A meditator might describe journeying to Svargaloka not as a golden city in the clouds, but as a realm of brilliant, harmonious light where communication happens through direct thought transmission and where the inhabitants possess a palpable aura of bliss and knowledge. Another might describe a conscious descent into the patalas, not as a frightening hell, but as a dimension of intense, raw creative power that can be overwhelming for an unprepared mind. These are not dreams or hallucinations in the pathological sense. Practitioners insist they are states of hyper-awareness, more real and lucid than our waking reality, accessed through a disciplined and repeatable process. This yogic model of perception offers a fascinating lens through which to view modern multiverse theories. If consciousness is fundamental, as the Upanishads propose and as some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest, then accessing different universes might not require breaking the light-speed barrier. It might require breaking the perceptual barrier. The many worlds interpretation says all possible realities exist in a vast superposition. Meditation, in this context, could be seen as the tool that collapses that wave function for an individual consciousness, not into a single particle's position, but into an entire experiential timeline or dimensional branch. The yogi, through immense training, learns to willfully choose which branch to experience, to become conscious in a different part of the quantum probability tree. This isn't science fiction. It's a testable hypothesis, albeit one that requires a first-person experimental method, the very method these ancient traditions have been refining for millennia. The guided visualizations used in these practices are not mere imagination exercises. They are the starter keys for this inner spacecraft, precise algorithms of thought designed to boot up a completely different operating system for reality. Yet this astonishingly detailed vision of a structured multiverse was not unique to Hindu thought in the ancient world. If we turn our gaze to other wisdom traditions that blossomed around the same time, we find a fascinating tapestry of parallel ideas, each culture weaving its own unique pattern into the concept of multiple realities. Buddhism, for instance, presents a cosmos of immense scale and complexity. Its cosmology describes a multitude of world systems, each with its own earth, heavens, and hells existing within a greater cosmic structure. A single Buddha field or pure land is a realm created by the meritorious deeds and profound vows of a Buddha, and it is said there are infinite such fields across the 10 directions of space. What makes the Buddhist view particularly distinct is its emphasis on the mind's role in shaping reality. These countless worlds are not just out there, they are manifestations of collective karma, the sum total of the intentions and actions of the beings within them. This resonates deeply with the Hindu concept of the Lokas being states of consciousness, yet Buddhism often places a stronger emphasis on the psychological and ethical dimensions of these realms, framing them as external reflections of internal mental states. Jainism, another ancient Indian tradition, offers perhaps the most mathematically rigorous and geometrically precise multiverse model of all. Jain texts describe the cosmos, or Loka, as a single, gigantic, human-like figure standing with arms akimbo. This entire structure is finite and unchanging, but within it exists an infinite number of worlds. The most striking feature of the Jain multiverse is its classification of reality. It posits that the ultimate truth is multifaceted and can be understood from 7 different standpoints or perspectives, a doctrine known as Ekantavada, the principle of non-absolutism. This philosophical framework directly supports the idea of a multiverse. If no single perspective can capture the whole truth, then every possible perspective must have its own validity in its own context. In other words, every possible universe with its own unique set of physical laws and truths must exist to accommodate every possible point of view. This is a multiverse born not from quantum fluctuation, but from logical necessity, a universe where every statement is true somewhere. Venturing beyond the Indian subcontinent, we find the seeds of similar ideas in ancient Greek philosophy. While their myths often focused on a single, ordered cosmos, the philosophers dared to think bigger. In the 5th century BCE, Anaximander proposed the idea of innumerable worlds arising from and dissolving back into the boundless apeiron, the infinite and indefinite source of all things. Later, the atomists Leucippus and Democritus argued that the universe was composed of an infinite number of atoms moving in an infinite void. They reasoned that given infinite atoms and infinite space, the same combinations of atoms must recur an infinite number of times. This led them to the breathtaking conclusion that there must be innumerable worlds, each different from ours, and even an infinite number of exact copies of our own world, complete with duplicates of every person and every city. This concept of an infinite plurality of worlds, born from sheer logical deduction rather than spiritual revelation, is a powerful echo of the ideas emerging in the East, suggesting that the human mind, when pushed to its limits, consistently arrives at the same profoundly expansive conclusion about the nature of reality. Comparing these traditions reveals both a shared human impulse and fascinating distinctions. A simple chart would show Hinduism's layered, egg-like Brahmandas, Buddhism's mind-made, karmically determined Buddha fields, Jainism's single, finite cosmic structure containing infinite worlds, and Greek philosophy's infinite atoms forming infinite copies in an infinite void. The common thread is the insistence that our reality is not alone. The differences lie in the underlying mechanisms. For Hinduism, it's the divine creative impulse of Brahman. For Buddhism, it's the power of the mind and karma. For Jainism, it's a logical consequence of multiple perspectives, and for the Greeks, it was a deduction from first principles of physics. This rich comparative mythology shows us that the multiverse is not a new idea invented by modern physics, but a perennial intuition that has emerged independently across human cultures, each framing it within their own unique understanding of the cosmos and our place within it. Of course, these parallels are breathtaking, but it's absolutely vital that we pause and ask the critical question: are we connecting genuine dots, or are we simply seeing patterns we desperately want to see? This is where we must turn a skeptical eye, because the world of academic scholarship is far from a consensus on this interpretation. Many respected historians and philologists caution against what they see as a form of intellectual wishful thinking, a retroactive fitting of ancient spiritual concepts into the mold of modern scientific discovery. The primary counterargument is a methodological one. Scholars like Professor Wendy Doniger, a renowned Indologist, might argue that this approach often involves a selective reading of the texts. Hindu scriptures are vast, poetic, and deeply metaphorical. They are not lab reports or physics papers. To pluck a verse about innumerable universes from the Bhagavata Purana and hold it up as a prediction of the inflationary multiverse is to ignore the immediate religious and philosophical context. These descriptions are primarily intended to inspire devotion and convey the infinite glory and power of the divine, not to provide a literal scientific map of reality. When a text says universes emanate from the pores of Vishnu, is that a physicist's description of bubble nucleation, or is it a theologian's powerful image for the effortless, organic creativity of God? The charge is that we are taking a beautiful metaphor and mistaking it for a mathematical equation. Another significant point of contention lies in the vast diversity of thought within Hinduism itself. For every passage that suggests a multiverse, there are schools of philosophy, like certain streams of Advaita Vedanta, that emphasize a fundamental non-duality, a single, unified reality where the appearance of multiplicity is the ultimate illusion, Maya. In this view, the countless Lokas and Brahmandas are not separate physical places but different levels of understanding or vibration within one conscious totality. From this perspective, the modern multiverse theory, with its countless physically distinct universes, might actually be seen as an amplification of the illusion of separation, not a validation of the ancient idea. This internal debate highlights the danger of presenting Hinduism as a monolithic voice. It is a rich tapestry of often conflicting viewpoints, and cherry-picking the ones that align with modern science creates a distorted picture. Furthermore, there's the ever-present risk of confirmation bias. We are looking back from a specific point in history, armed with the knowledge of quantum physics and cosmology. It's incredibly easy to find passages that seem to resonate with our current understanding because we're unconsciously searching for them. A classic example is the vague interpretation of the term Loka. While it can be translated as world or universe, its meaning is incredibly fluid. In some contexts, it refers to a heavenly abode, in others to a plane of consciousness, and in others to a literal realm. To consistently interpret it as a self-contained universe with alternate physics requires a pre-existing belief that this is what the ancient seers must have meant. As historian of science James Lancaster points out, this is a common trap in comparing ancient wisdom and modern science. We often project our own frameworks onto the past, giving ancient thinkers credit for ideas they never articulated in a modern scientific sense. This isn't to say that all scholarly perspectives are dismissive. Many take a more nuanced middle ground approach. Dr. Sean Cohen, a professor of South Asian religions, might suggest that while the ancient texts aren't making scientific predictions, they are engaging in a profound philosophical exploration of the nature of reality that is entirely compatible with scientific discovery. They weren't doing science, but they were asking the same fundamental questions that drive our best scientists today. What is the nature of existence? Is our reality unique? What is the source of it all? The value of these texts, therefore, isn't that they predicted the multiverse, but that they created a philosophical and imaginative space where such a concept could be contemplated without being dismissed as heresy. They provided a worldview that was expansive enough to accommodate these staggering ideas, which is a profound intellectual achievement in itself. The most balanced view might be this: the ancient sages, through deep introspection and brilliant logical deduction, arrived at a conceptual model of a reality that is multi-layered, cyclical, and infinite in scope. Modern cosmologists, through mathematical deduction and observational technology, have arrived at a strikingly similar model. They are not the same model. One is metaphysical and experiential, the other is physical and mathematical, but they are deeply complementary. They represent two powerful, distinct human methods for grappling with the sublime mystery of the cosmos, and their convergence is not proof of prediction, but rather a testament to the universal human drive to understand our place within the grandest possible scheme of things. This convergence is perhaps more exciting than a simple prediction because it suggests that truth, when approached with rigor and wonder, can be reached from multiple directions. This philosophical and scientific convergence finds breathtaking physical form in the very stone and mortar of Hindu temples, where the abstract concept of the multiverse is translated into a walkable, tangible reality. These sacred structures are far more than places of worship. They are meticulously designed cosmic maps built to guide the devotee on a journey through the layered realities of existence. The entire temple, or Vimana, is conceived as a symbolic representation of the entire cosmos, with its most sacred design principle being the mandala, a concentric diagram that serves as a blueprint for both the universe and the human consciousness seeking to understand it. At the heart of every traditional temple design is the Vastu Purusha mandala, a square grid that is both the metaphysical plan of the universe and the architectural plan of the temple. This grid is not a flat drawing, it is a multi-dimensional map. The central square, the Brahmastana, represents the unmanifest source, the point of singularity from which all creation emanates. Radiating outward from this still center are concentric squares, each representing a different layer of the cosmos. The innermost rings correspond to the higher, more subtle lokas, the realms of the devas and enlightened beings. The middle rings symbolize the earthly and astral planes, our familiar realm of human experience. The outermost rings represent the peripheral and protective energies, the boundaries of the manifested world. As a devotee moves from the temple's outer gate, the Gopuram, and proceeds inward through a series of increasingly sacred courtyards and halls, they are symbolically traversing these cosmic layers, leaving the plurality of the outer world behind to approach the unity at the center. This architectural journey culminates at the Garbhagriha, the dark, womb-like chamber at the temple's heart that houses the main deity. This small, often unadorned space is the physical correlate of the Brahmastana, the point where the infinite contracts into a singular, accessible form. The act of standing before the deity in the Garbhagriha is designed to replicate the mystical experience of encountering the core of reality itself, having passed through the countless layers of illusion and manifestation. The temple's vertical structure, often towering high with a pyramidal spire called the Shikara, reinforces this multidimensional theme. The Shikara doesn't just point toward heaven, it is itself a symbolic Mount Meru, the axis mundi that connects all the planes of existence from the netherworlds below to the highest celestial realms above. This architectural philosophy is brilliantly expressed in temples like the Kandariya Mahadeva in Khajuraho or the Brihadiswara temple in Thanjavur. Their exteriors are famously covered in a profusion of sculpted figures, gods, goddesses, celestial musicians, mythical beasts, and embracing couples. This isn't merely decorative, it is a deliberate visual representation of the teeming, abundant, and diverse life that fills the multiverse. Every inch of space is occupied, mirroring the Hindu cosmological view that the cosmos is pulsating with consciousness in countless forms and dimensions. The artwork declares that reality is not empty, but infinitely populated and vibrantly alive. Perhaps the most powerful visual representation of the multiverse is found in the iconography of Vishnu, particularly in depictions of his cosmic form, the Vishvarupa. This is the very vision granted to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and temple sculptures and paintings strive to capture its overwhelming grandeur. In these images, Vishnu is not a single human-like figure. His body expands to contain the entirety of creation. Innumerable heads look in every direction, signifying his omnipresence across all spaces. Countless arms hold every possible divine weapon and attribute, representing his infinite power to act simultaneously across all dimensions. Most strikingly, within his body, you can see the entire universe depicted: swirling galaxies, solar systems, the 14 Lokas, all the devas and asuras, every living being and every element of nature, all contained within the divine form. This is not a god sitting in a universe. This is a visualization of the divine as the very substance of the multiverse, a single consciousness expressing itself as the breathtaking plurality of all that is, was, or ever will be. To stand before such an image is to be given a glimpse of the ultimate reality that the temple architecture guides you toward, a reality of infinite complexity and profound unity, where every possible world is both distinct and inseparable from the whole. Looking ahead, the frontier of modern cosmology might be on the verge of discoveries that could deepen this dialogue with ancient thought in astonishing ways. Consider the mystery of dark energy, the enigmatic force causing the accelerated expansion of our universe. To physicists, it's a cosmological constant problem, a number that seems improbably fine-tuned for life. But through the lens of Hindu cosmology, this accelerating expansion could be seen as the natural, breath-like exhalation of a specific Brahmanda, the inevitable preparation for the eventual dissolution or pralaya that will precede the next cosmic cycle. This isn't to say the ancient texts hold the equation for dark energy, but they provide a metaphysical framework where such a universal force isn't a puzzle to be solved so much as a phase to be understood within a much longer, rhythmic process. The ongoing quest to characterize dark energy might not just tell us about the fate of our universe, but could inadvertently offer a new language for understanding these ancient concepts of cosmic rhythm and renewal. Another thrilling area of convergence is the holographic principle, a radical theory suggesting our three-dimensional reality might be a projection of information encoded on a two-dimensional surface at the universe's boundary. This idea that the world we experience is a kind of illusion, a lower dimensional representation of a higher dimensional truth, is a breathtaking echo of the philosophical concept of Maya. The projection of the entire universe from a boundary layer resonates powerfully with the image of the divine as the source from which all multiplicity emanates. If future research provides even tentative evidence for a holographic universe, it would force a profound philosophical shift, moving us closer to the Vedic view that reality is fundamentally a manifestation of consciousness and information. This could inspire physicists to ask entirely new questions, not just about how the hologram works, but about the nature of the projector and the source light, questions that sound less like physics and more like the inquiries of the ancient rishis. This cross-pollination could flow in both directions. Ancient wisdom might serve as a source of inspiration for new scientific hypotheses. The detailed descriptions of the Lokas, for instance, with their distinct vibrational qualities and laws, could be reinterpreted not as mythological places, but as theoretical models for different vacuum states in the string theory landscape. Each Loka could represent a universe where the quantum fields have settled into a different stable configuration, resulting in a unique set of physical constants. A physicist, armed with this mythological map, might be inspired to calculate the probability parameters for transitioning between these states, or to model the kind of consciousness that could evolve in a realm with a different number of spatial dimensions or a weaker, strong nuclear force. The texts become less a record of belief and more a catalogue of speculative physics, a millennia-old thought experiment waiting to be quantified. Ultimately, the most significant impact might be on the very methodology of science itself. For centuries, the scientific method has relied on external observation and measurement. Yet, the Vedic tradition claims that the deepest truths of the cosmos are accessible through internal exploration, through the refined and disciplined instrument of human consciousness. As we push against the limits of what can be observed with telescopes and particle colliders, the Planck scale, the pre-Big Bang universe, the nature of consciousness, we may find that a purely external approach hits a fundamental barrier. The next great leap in understanding the multiverse may not come from a bigger telescope, but from a more sophisticated science of inner experience, a rigorous first-person methodology for exploring consciousness that takes the testimonies of yogic adepts as serious data points about the nature of reality. This wouldn't replace traditional science but would complement it, creating a new, holistic paradigm for discovery where the observer becomes the observed, and the map of the cosmos is finally recognized as being drawn within us all along. All of this cosmic architecture and ancient mathematics might feel incredibly grand, but it leads us to a deeply personal and perhaps unsettling question. If there are infinite versions of reality, what does that mean for me right here, right now? Does it render my choices meaningless, or does it somehow make them more profound? The answer from this ancient wisdom tradition is surprisingly empowering. It suggests that the multiverse isn't a distant abstraction. It's the very canvas upon which our personal journey of consciousness is painted. Every single choice you make, from the mundane to the monumental, isn't just affecting the path of one life. It's a conscious selection of which reality stream you will continue to flow with. Think about a decision you're grappling with right now. Perhaps it's a career change, a difficult conversation, or even just how you choose to react to a moment of frustration. In the framework of karma and the multiverse, that decision point is a potent branching moment. Choosing patience over anger, courage over fear, or compassion over indifference isn't just about creating a better outcome in this single timeline. It's about attuning your entire being to a higher vibrational frequency, one that resonates with an entire class of realities where those qualities are the norm. You are, in a very real sense, choosing your destination in the multiverse with every thought and action. This isn't about a cosmic scorecard, it's about resonance. Your internal state acts as a homing beacon, aligning you with the external reality that matches it. This brings a whole new dimension to the idea of spiritual growth. The ultimate goal in these traditions is to attain moksha, or liberation, freedom from the endless cycle of rebirth and the limitations of a singular perspective. But what is that, if not the ultimate mastery of navigating the multiverse? It's the ability to consciously, willfully choose your reality from a place of enlightened awareness, rather than being unconsciously tossed by the waves of habit and reaction. An enlightened being, a yogi who has achieved this freedom, is said to be able to move at will between the Lokas. This isn't a magical superpower. It's the natural consequence of having fully purified their consciousness, burning away the karmic seeds that bind one to a specific, limited vibrational band. They are no longer a passenger on a single train track. They have become the conductor of their own experience, able to switch tracks at will because they understand that all tracks are made from the same fundamental substance of consciousness. To make this feel real, let's bring it down to earth with a story. Imagine two close friends, Maya and Lee, who both dream of becoming artists. They graduate from university together and face the same harsh reality of making a living from their craft. The first few years are a struggle for both. Maya, however, becomes consumed by the fear of failure. She starts to believe her art isn't good enough, that the world is too competitive. She makes choices from this place of fear. She takes a stable office job she dislikes to pay the bills, and she slowly stops creating. Her vibrational frequency shifts to one of regret and playing it safe. Lee, facing the same rejections and financial pressure, makes a different set of choices. She chooses to see each no as a step closer to a yes. She networks tirelessly, continues to hone her craft every single day, and takes side jobs that still leave her energy for creating. She operates from a frequency of persistent faith and passion. 5 years later, their realities have diverged dramatically. Maya feels stuck in a life that doesn't feel like her own, while Lee is preparing for her first solo gallery show. The multiverse theory suggests that both of these outcomes were always possible. Their choices didn't just create their futures, they selected which of those pre-existing potential futures they would actually experience and call their own. So, what does this mean for your life today? It means that the spiritual practices of mindfulness, ethical living, and meditation are not just about being a better person in a vague moral sense. They are practical technologies for reality navigation. When you meditate, you are quieting the static of your everyday mind to get a clearer read on your true vibrational signature. When you consciously choose kindness in a difficult moment, you are not just being nice, you are actively tuning your instrument to the frequency of a more compassionate reality. The ancient sages gave us a map not to find a treasure chest at the end of a rainbow, but to understand that we are the treasure, and the map is the choices we make in every single moment. The multiverse is not out there, it is in here, unfolding through the incredible power of your own awareness. So after all of this, after journeying through the cosmic eggs and the cyclical ages, after sitting with the sages and the physicists, where does that leave you and me, right here in this moment? It's one thing to marvel at these grand ideas, but it's another entirely to feel their weight in your own life. What if the most profound impact of this ancient multiverse theory isn't found in sacred texts or scientific papers, but in the quiet, personal moments of your own experience? Have you ever had a dream that felt more real than reality itself? Not just a jumbled series of images, but a full, immersive world with its own logic, its own emotions, and its own story, a place you truly inhabited for a time. Or what about that unmistakable feeling of déjà vu, that spine-tingling sense that you've lived this exact second before, in precisely this way? Maybe you've had a gut feeling so strong it seemed to pull you toward a decision, as if some other version of you was whispering from a parallel timeline, guiding you away from a mistake they once made. These aren't just random neurological glitches. Through the lens of this ancient wisdom, they could be fleeting glimpses through the veil. They could be moments where the vibrational walls between realities grow thin, allowing a momentary resonance with another stream of existence. Think about the choices that have defined your life, the job you took, the person you fell in love with, the place you decided to call home. Now, try to hold in your mind the possibility that somewhere every road not taken is still being traveled. Another you is living out the consequences of that different decision. How does that thought land for you? Does it make your own path feel smaller or somehow infinitely larger? Does it diminish your struggles or make every act of courage and kindness even more significant, knowing that in another world, a version of you might be yearning for the strength you just found? This is where the conversation truly comes alive, and it's a conversation I genuinely want to have with you. This isn't just a monologue, it's an invitation to explore this mystery together. I want to hear what you think. Down in the comments, tell me about your moments of connection. Have you ever experienced something that made you question the solidity of your reality? Maybe it was a powerful dream, a strange coincidence that felt too perfect to be random, or even a story passed down in your family that hints at something more. Share it, because when we pool our experiences, we're not just building a community, we're crowdsourcing a map of the miraculous, piecing together clues about the true nature of our existence. This idea challenges us to rethink everything we assume about our place in the cosmos. We're taught to see ourselves as isolated individuals on a tiny rock orbiting an average star. But what if that's only the smallest fraction of the story? What if you are not just a human being having a spiritual experience, but a vast consciousness having a focused human experience across countless dimensions simultaneously? This perspective doesn't ask you to abandon logic, but to expand it. It invites you to consider that your intuition, your creativity, and your deepest sense of connection might be the most sophisticated instruments you have for perceiving the multilayered truth of who you really are. This is the real magic of this ancient vision. It gives us permission to wonder, to question, and to feel the awe of our own potential without limits. It suggests that the final frontier isn't deep space, but deep consciousness, and that the greatest journey you'll ever take is the one that leads you to understand the infinite possibilities contained within your own awareness. So after this incredible journey from the verses of the Rig Veda to the equations of modern physics, what are we left with? A series of parallels so striking they cannot be easily dismissed as mere coincidence. We see the ancient concept of the Brahmanda, a self-contained cosmic egg with its own unique laws, mirrored in the modern theory of bubble universes perpetually budding off from an inflating meta-reality. The countless Lokas, layered planes of existence, each operating under different conditions, find their echo in the string theory landscape, a vast mathematical terrain of possible universes with wildly varying physical constants. The endless cycles of creation, preservation, and dissolution described in the concept of the kalpas and pralaya resonate deeply with scientific models of the universe's fate, from the Big Crunch to the transformative potential of vacuum decay. And perhaps most profoundly, the philosophical principle of Maya, the world as a divine illusion projected from a singular source, offers a breathtakingly elegant framework for understanding why our reality might be just one experienced facet of a deeper, non-local quantum field where everything is fundamentally interconnected. This isn't about claiming that ancient sages had telescopes or particle accelerators. It's about recognizing that they employed a different yet equally rigorous method of inquiry, turning consciousness inward to explore the fundamental nature of existence. Through deep meditation and philosophical contemplation, they arrived at a model of the cosmos that is not smaller or less sophisticated than our modern one, but simply different in its language and methodology. They mapped reality from the inside out while we are mapping it from the outside in, and the fact that these two paths, separated by thousands of years and entirely different worldviews, are converging on such similar ideas about the multiverse is one of the most exciting and humbling intellectual developments of our time. It suggests that the quest to understand the cosmos is a universal human impulse, and that truth, when pursued with genuine curiosity and rigor, has a way of revealing itself in multiple dimensions. This exploration invites us to adopt a new kind of humility and a renewed sense of wonder. It asks us to look at ancient texts not as outdated mythology, but as repositories of profound cosmological insight. It challenges us to see our current scientific understanding not as the final word, but as the latest chapter in an ongoing, collaborative discovery of reality, a discovery that has been unfolding for millennia across cultures and disciplines. The real magic lies in the dialogue between the ancient and the modern, the spiritual and the scientific, the inner and the outer. This conversation enriches both sides, giving scientists new philosophical frameworks to ponder and offering spiritual traditions a new language to express their timeless truths. If this journey has sparked even a flicker of curiosity in you, then our mission here is accomplished. This channel is dedicated to unraveling the deepest mysteries of existence, to finding the hidden connections between science, history, and spirituality that redefine what it means to be human in a vast and mysterious cosmos. We have only just scratched the surface of this incredible topic. There are so many more mysteries to explore, from the nature of time and consciousness to the possibility of ancient advanced civilizations and the future of human evolution. Your perspective is a vital part of this exploration. Share your thoughts and your own experiences down in the comments. Have you ever felt a connection to something larger? What mysteries keep you up at night? Let's build a community of curious minds, all dedicated to asking the big questions. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the unknown. The universe is whispering its secrets. It's time we all learned how to listen. Keep questioning, keep wondering, and never stop exploring the magnificent, multi-layered mysteries